I'd like to call the meeting of the Patricia A. Hannaford Regional Technical School District to order. It's Monday, October 17th. It is 5:16, and I apologize for starting late. I'd like to start with introduction of board members. I'll start with people online. Kim?
My name is Kim Farnham. I live in New Haven. I'm the community at large member for the Mount Abraham School District.
Tiffany?
Hello, my name is Tiffany Love. I live in Middlebury, Vermont, and I serve on the board representing the Work Investment Board. Nice to meet you all.
Judd?
Judd Markowski, resident of Bridport, live member as well, Tiffany. Yep, I think that's it.
Steve Orr?
Steve Orzak, Middlebury resident, representing ACSD.
Steve Rooney from Starksboro, representing MAUSD.
Suzanne Buck, representing ACSD. We'll start, then we'll go to administrators. Tim?
Tim Williams, interim superintendent director.
Mark?
Pardon me, Mark Kruger from Bristol, interim business manager.
Jay?
Jay Stutzel, assistant director.
Linda?
Linda Barrett, clerk.
Bill?
Bill Biederman, possible candidate. We'll find out. You guys ask all the wrong questions. I'm out of here.
Patrice?
Patrice Alexander, administrative assistant.
Are there any visitors online?
There are not.
All right. May I have a motion to approve the agenda with one condition, that we need to pull the minutes of September 15th?
So moved.
Is there a second?
May I ask for clarification on pulling the minutes? What do you mean by that?
So there's something wrong with the minutes.
Okay.
So if we approve the agenda, since they're in the consent agenda, that would make them officially approved.
I see.
So we're pulling them out to make the correction, and then we'll approve them separately, okay? It's been moved and
Tiffany.
Tiffany raised.
seconded by Tiffany to approve the agenda with the fact that we're going to pull the minutes of September 15th. Is there any further discussion? Seeing no hands raised, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion's passed. There's no visitor comments. We have correspondence. Jay, do you want to read that?
Sure. So we have several donations that have come our way. So the first one, there's two vehicle donations. One is a 2009 Ford Ranger. The truck has no brakes and the cab is rotted out, causing the value of the truck to be so low. Basically, it's valued at whatever scrap price would be. The truck will be a good addition to our work vehicles, as it is newer than most of the vehicles we have, and it will make a good project for the students to fix up. Probably won't ever be on the road again, but it's still a good project for students to work on. Then there's also a 2012 Dodge Caravan. The vehicle has no power steering, needs exhaust and body work, causing the vehicle to not be inspectable. The van will be a good addition to our work vehicles, as it is newer than most of the vehicles we have, and it will make a good project for students to fix up as well. And then we have a Fasteners donation from Aubuchon Hardware. So, dear John Curler and PAHCC, Aubuchon Hardware is pleased to have been given the opportunity to donate $3,780 in fasteners. We always enjoy working with PAHCC and its students and future leaders. We will continue to support the building and agricultural trades as we have for several years, and look forward to any additional opportunities to assist in any needs you may have. Thank you, Renee Carpenter, Middlebury Store Manager. And the last donation is From Mechanical Advantage, dear Mr. Stetzel, I own and operate a machine shop in Middlebury. Recently, I have upgraded our automated optical inspection equipment and have available our previous automated optical inspection system. I would like to donate the machine for use in the Industrial Design and Fabrication program. I have spoken to Mr. Trudeau about the machine, and he would like to have it at the Career Center. The description of the equipment is as follows. So it's an optical gauging products incorporated machine. Advanced Smart Scope Zip 600. Stage size is 21 inches by 28 inches. The current value is $3,500. This machine has a computer and software included, and there is no recurring software license fee. The license is permanent. Thank you, Dave Cole, owner, Mechanical Advantage LLC.
Thank you. We'll take those up to approve under the action agenda. The minutes of September 15th, 2022 were pulled, and we need to vote on them separately because in a motion that occurred at the last meeting, there was one abstention, and that abstention was not listed, and by state statute, if a vote is not 100%, you not only have to list those who abstained, but also those supposedly who were in the nay category. That motion, the abstention on it was Steve Orzek at the end of our last meeting. So with that correction, may I have a motion to approve the minutes of September 15th, 2022?
So move, Kim.
Is there a second to that?
Sure.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the corrected minutes of September 15th, 2022. Is there any further discussion? Seeing no hands raised, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion's passed. Monthly accounts. Mark, do you want to read those? If you're still there.
I'm still here. I've got about 10 documents open. It'll take me a minute to find them, so if, hold on.
Or if you can't find them, Mark, I can read them.
Okay, if you would, Suzanne, thank you.
For the month of September 2022, energy project, $560,203.85. There was no expenditures for the BRF. Under the general fund, there was numerous AP checks totaling $261,917.04. In the revolving fund, there was an AP check for $21.61. Student activities, accounts payable checks totaling $3,184.09. There was nothing in scholarship. Under payroll, there were 3 different runs. First one totaled $91,071.08. The next one totaled $88,033.56. And the last one totaled, whoops, I can't tell you what the last one totaled, but I can tell you the total. Oh, sorry, $108,286.09. So those were the bills for September. And Nick and I went over those. So those are the bills. Moving on to our action agenda, I'd like to introduce a gentleman sitting at the table here. His name is Bill Biederman. Some people may be familiar with him. Bill has helped with the makery. I knew Bill when our kids played lacrosse together. Sorry.
A while ago.
That was a little while ago, correct. But Bill comes to us from what we call the WIB board. It's the Workforce, Hudson County Workforce Alliance group that has moved Bill's name forward. And in the past, candidates that have come to us have been Tiffany, have been Judd. If there's any questions that anybody would like to ask, or if Bill would like to say something about why he decided to throw his name into the hat, and then we'll take a vote. I'll turn it to you, Bill, first.
Okay. The reason I threw my name in the hat is I'm in the manufacturing field. I've been in the manufacturing field for close to 30 years, and I see a shortage of people looking at the skills that they need for doing modern manufacturing. And there are a lot of things that are exploding in the state, but we don't have the people to actually put in those positions. And I want to make sure that the proper skills are available for them to learn. And I'm not an engineer myself, but I've spent a lot of time in construction as well as manufacturing. And so I think I have a pretty good idea of what people need, and I think I can be a help to the board.
Thank you.
Okay.
Does anyone on the board have any questions for Bill or Kim?
Bill, where are you from?
Well, I live in Middlebury, and I moved to Rochester 1990, moved to Ripton in 2002, and then I moved down to Middlebury in 2009. But I've been coming to Vermont since I was a kid. And I've always loved the place. I've always enjoyed working with Vermonters because there's so many farmers up here, and they're not just people who work with animals, they're people who solve problems. And they do it in very unconventional ways with the wrong tools and no parts. And it's a great way to solve problems. And I've always, in the jobs I've worked in, I've always tried to put a farmer together with, oftentimes a PhD to solve a problem. The farmer solves the problem, the PhD actually writes everything down, because you don't want it the other way around. Sorry, I hope there are no PhDs in here that I'm actually insulting.
Well, no, there's two online, but that's fine.
But it's a very innovative way of looking at things, and I've always enjoyed working in Vermont and helping people. And that's one of the things we're doing now, is we're actually looking at different workforce opportunities for things that we need done, and finding people who have limited skills, but there are certain skills that they have that would work very well for what we want to do. And it's important for the county.
Yep.
And I apologize if I insulted any PhDs out there.
Well, in Pennsylvania, that's called Amish engineering.
Right. Yes, it is.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Anyone else have a question, or? Seeing no hands raised, I would like to take a motion to approve Bill Biederman's recommendation as our newest WIB member.
I motion.
Moved by Tiffany,
Second?
seconded by
Second,
Judd.
Judd.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of approving Bill Biederman as our WIB member, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Come on, Patrice, speak up.
She can't. Well, you are now a proud member of the PAHCC board, and
Okay.
welcome aboard.
Thank you.
So
Thank
going
you.
forward, you're more than welcome to join the conversation.
Okay.
Do you have any of our documents with tonight?
No, I don't, but I can grab them over there.
The next on our agenda is we had 4 different donations. We can either do a motion to approve the 4 donations as one lump, or we can do a motion to approve each one separately.
I would move to approve all 4 of them simultaneously.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Been moved by Judd and seconded by Kim to accept all 4 donations as were read by Jay. Is there any discussion?
I have one question. Can you repeat the value of the polish lines?
I think it was 3750. Sorry, 3780.
And
And again, those values come from the individuals who are doing the donation. We don't establish those amounts.
the smart scope was 3,500. And the other two were just scrapped, right?
Yeah, which is somewhere between $300 and $500, depending on the weight of the car.
Thanks for that clarification, Jay. We're not in the business of assessing the value of donations. That's for them to deal with the IRS in whatever way they need to. We're happy to note the value they believe it is, but we're not placing values on donated equipment.
And a letter of thank you will go to all 4 donors.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to approve all 4 donations. Since I don't see any more hands raised, I'll call the vote. All in favor?
Quick question.
Whoops, sorry.
Do you guys provide a receipt for the amount that they're talking about, or do you just thank them?
Yeah, we just.
No,
Yeah, go ahead, Tim.
We don't get in the business of assessing the value of donated items. That would be for the donor to work out on his or her own.
Okay.
And because we're not, if the IRS ever questions it, we're not in the business of providing values on things.
Okay.
So we're not getting in that business.
Okay. Thank you.
But we do provide a letter of receipt stating that the items that were donated and thanking them for their donation.
All right. Thank you for clarifying.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion's passed. Hello, Jack.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It was 6
Well.
o'clock, didn't you?
I thought it was Thursday.
Nick, we discussed this.
No, it's changed so.
We discussed it in budget and policy.
Yeah, but I thought it was put back to Thursday.
No.
Okay.
All right. Do you need a copy?
I would love a copy.
Sorry, he's got my scribble notes at the top.
That's all right. Thank you.
Approved signatures on accounts. Do we have that paperwork?
I did.
You did what?
I think it's in the file. That you just gave.
Oh, that I just gave away?
I think
Just gave
so.
it away.
Is there a signature sheet in there?
It wasn't in the word.
No, it's just an update. I'm not seeing it in here, Patrice, so I don't even know how to do the motion because I don't know the name of the document. I know there's a specific name. And I know that the purpose of updating the document is to add Tim's name to it, but
This isn't in the packet.
Airmail. So,
Is it for to sign checks for National Bank of Middlebury?
yes, but there's a specific name of that document.
Is Marco?
Mark, do you know the name of that document?
It's updating the signature card, Suzanne. I'm not allowed, I spoke with the National Bank, but of course not being a bona fide signature holder on those accounts, I cannot ask for the paperwork. And it is, you were correct in what you said earlier, the purpose is to get Tim's name added to those accounts that currently have Jay's name on them. I'm not sure, I think Dana's name has been removed, but it's primarily to get Tim added as a legitimate signer in the event Jay is out of the building or not available.
So, I don't know how the board would like to proceed without actually seeing the document.
Can we look for it and just table this for a moment and look at the agenda and see if...
Or is the board allowed to just approve Tim as a signatory on the National Bank of Middlebury accounts?
Because I
And then we
think
can
there
take care of
might
the
be,
paperwork from there?
there might be that I might have to sign it on that form. I don't remember the form well enough to know what else we need on it. Mark,
We
would that
could
form?
authorize you to sign.
Yes, Suzanne?
Would that form be in your office? Would Patrice know where it is?
No, because, again, I cannot request it. It has to come from somebody who's currently on there. So I believe what we're trying to do is to add Tim as a bona fide signature. This is not, and whether the board is comfortable in doing that. If not, we'll, all the paperwork, but there's a number of accounts that's gonna, where we're adding Tim. So I think in essence, maybe it was Jay that I heard say that what we're really asking is, would the board approve adding Tim as a legitimate signer?
Right, but I think, Patrice, back in June, you and I found, I think, that signature paperwork. Can you look back in the board agenda? Because if it's just a matter of adding a name, that's one thing, but if it also requires a signature of the board chair to formalize that document, the board would have to know that because I would have to sign it a second time.
Okay, understood.
But I think maybe perhaps you could, the board could authorize the chair to sign any documents necessary to put me on as a signer for those bonds and financial documents.
Yeah, I don't see
Yeah.
that would be a problem.
I think that's fine.
If you find, you know, once you find a document, you can put Tim on it and sign it. As long as we approve it right now.
So, what's the board's pleasure? I'll take a motion. Don't just nod at me there, Nick.
Move to approve the chairperson to sign required documents to add Tim as a signatory on Bank of Middlebury accounts.
Okay. Is there a second?
Sure.
Second by Bill Wiederman. Is there any further Tiffany? No. Is there any further discussion? We'll proceed to vote. All in favor of authorizing the...
National Bank of Middlebury.
Authorizing the board chair to
sign the required document.
All right.
National Bank of Middlebury.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. All right, thank you. And we'll find that document and get that done. Mark, policy 2.3, financial conditions and activities.
You have that report. It was submitted with the board materials. I have nothing to that I unless there are questions. I'm assuming everyone had an opportunity to review it. And Suzanne, if I may, I don't know what has been past practice in more recent time in terms of this, these policies. It appears this is a very familiar document that during my previous tenure was always submitted on a quarterly basis to provide a brief oversight to members of the board. Is the current board in practice of hearing something or just getting the written report and then asking questions should there be any? I'm happy to do either one. I just don't want to overstep and you get me talking. I can go on for an hour for those that know me.
So previously, when we had any of the quarterly reports, and as they obviously change, whatever the title is, and we get one every month. Typically, someone has walked us through if there's been any changes or, you know, what this all means, and then ask for questions. But if the board is okay with reading it on their own and then asking questions, we can go that way too.
Yeah, I have no problem with that, as long as it's provided in a timely manner.
Yeah, I don't need it read back to me.
Okay. People online?
I didn't hear it, Suzanne.
So far, both people well, two people here have said that as long as they get the documents, one comment in a timely manner, and then one as long as they could read it ahead of time, they were all set with just reading it and then asking questions.
Okay.
Judd had his hand raised.
I agree with Steve. I'm happy to just read it. It's quite often just a boilerplate thing, it seems. So unless there was something that really jumped out, I'm happy to just read it.
Kim or Tiffany, anything?
I agree.
Okay.
Agreed.
If that's the case, does anybody have any questions for Mark about the report? Seeing none, we'll take a motion to approve policy 2.3, financial conditions and activities.
So moved.
Moved by Steve Orzak. I need a second, someone?
Steve?
No. Steve Rooney.
Steve.
Oh, Bill seconded it.
Oh,
It was moved by Steve Orzak and seconded by Bill Biederman to accept policy 2.3, financial condition and activities. Any further discussion before we vote? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, please say aye.
aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Yeah, I'll abstain. I haven't read it.
You haven't read it, so you're abstaining?
Yeah.
Okay. Motion is passed with one abstention. Investment of remaining capital project bond money.
Patrice, could I ask you to scroll the agenda up so we can see the
Oh,
big screen?
where we're all at.
Thank you.
Someone with more knowledge of bonds than I, would they be so kind as to present this piece on the investment of remaining capital project bond? Mark or Nick, one of you?
Alrighty.
Mark is, I'm just looking at the recent numbers, but
Okay. So I guess, Mark, we're going to give it to you.
Okay. A little history. At one of the previous budget and policy meetings, we looked at taking the bond proceeds that are currently not expended, of which that's currently about $6 million, and investing them in the money market. Then the discussion moved around to, well, should we look at some treasury securities for either 3, 6, 9 months that will get us a little bit better rate of return. Looking at the pros and cons, obviously the money market, if the feds bump up the prime, we would see that reflected typically in the money market return. Whereas if rates go down, then locked-in rate with a treasury note would be the better choice. But none of us really know what's going to happen in that regard. So at the last budget and policy, we thought, well, why don't we take what we can safely set aside until next summer when it's needed to start really, when the second phase of the project gets going, and that would be $3 million, invest that into a treasury note. And then the remaining proceeds would stay within a money market account, because we do anticipate expenditures from now until June on an ongoing basis. So with that, the report, and I've got to scroll the image of you folks out of my picture here for a minute. So we included one that showed if we stayed with just the money market, the estimated interest earnings would be around $65,000. Let me get to it. And then I did another analysis based upon the revised structure, because that changed a little bit. And that bumped us up closer to $80,000 in interest earnings. And then with a money market and then $3 million in a treasury note at 3.325%, which is probably a little conservative on my part. I'm told they're somewhere in the 3.5 range right now. I backed it off just a little bit so as not to be overly generous. That would generate almost $90,000 in interest earnings. So I believe the recommendation, and Nick, Susan, correct me if I'm wrong, that it was, I think the recommendation to bring this to the full board for their input and approval or not. Am I correct on that, Nick? I know the numbers.
Yes, you were.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So there's only a $9,000 difference between the pure money market account and the split.
Yes, that's correct. The second money market, again, Nick, was based upon the construction schedule of payout
Yeah.
that Marty, I believe, did change from the very first one that we were
Right.
working with.
Yeah.
Because some of the expenditures in the coming months were not going to be as high as anticipated. I mean, what's done is done. Up to September 30th is been completed, and but the decision, as I remember, or the recommendation was to go with a blend, if you will, of the funds in the money market that will draw upon that as payments come due in the coming months. And then from June, the $3 million that we set aside will then mature, and that will be funds that we use to pay off the balance of the project during the summer of 2023.
Yes, that well, reflects the meeting last week. We did have a question on handling the treasury notes, right?
Yes, and if the next item on the agenda, if you were to make that change, the National Bank of Middlebury is able to facilitate that for us.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Mark or Nick?
So the final recommendation is the split version.
Well, we get $10,000 more. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's part of it in money market and part of it in
Bonds.
Treasury note.
We also potentially could look more closely at that disbursement schedule and have another conversation with Eric around that, because we have been paying out later than the disbursement schedule even, just in terms of what, if you look at the previous months and when we've paid those bills, it's been about a month behind that. So it's something else to think about, that if we're splitting it, it could potentially be more than $3 million that goes into that, those treasuries. And I don't know if, I mean, probably this group should be the ones deciding how much we're putting in there, I'm assuming.
right. And I asked in the meeting, what's the likelihood of having to make an early payment? And I think, Judd, you said that can happen because when stuff arrives early, like was the air exchangers, was it that they got it early and they put them in, and so we had to pay for them early. So a little, since that schedule, although we've normally been paying them, that past performance is no indication of what's going to happen in the future. I would be careful about keeping it close to the wire if that's a possibility.
Yeah.
I think that was one of the reasons to have the money market.
That it was, to
That's
have more
liquid.
flexibility for liquidity.
Yeah.
But I agree with Steve that I think we need to have some flexibility built in. 3 million is a fairly conservative number. So, you know, we've got enough, we'll have enough in the money market account if something happens.
Jay, was your suggestion that we might look at bumping up the treasury note because there might be more funds available, or?
Yeah, just based, I mean, if you go through and, well, I guess the other piece is, Mark, when can we actually put the money in the treasury fund? Can we do that by November 1?
I would, if we can get the transition, if the next item on the agenda is approved in the affirmative, I believe we could. I don't want to say with 100% certainty, but I certainly would, get that ball rolling tomorrow. If the other, but either way, if we stay with the current bank, they have treasury notes. So, but there's some pieces we have to do from a bond bank and U.S. Bank, which currently holds the money market account. So there's a few more logistical hoops that I would need to jump through, and I can't say at all certainly what those hoops in terms of timeline might take, but I certainly would make it a priority and get started with it. But I think it's safe to say, Jay, that probably by early November, we could have it in place.
Okay. And so if we're going with a 6-month treasury note, that, 6 months, if we do start November 1st, that would end at the end of April. So
That
if it's
would,
later than
right.
that, it would end beginning of May. And again, when we were looking at that 3 million, we're really talking about, needing that money in June.
That is
So,
correct, right? According to
so
the second construction schedule, I think if we had those funds available the 1st of June, we're going to be able to meet any obligations. We're going to get the invoice from energy efficiency end of May, and so those funds would be in place to pay that. That I think was.
And also, Mark, I think the rate for the 6-month treasury was better than the 9 months, right?
Yes, it was, and that's not. I've seen that before. As they get out there a little bit further, I've seen lending institutions have a little bit of a reluctance to go out too far, and so the short-term rates oftentimes provide a better opportunity on the rate of return. And I think, Nick, correct me if I'm wrong, we were talking around 3.5.
Yes, we were. Yeah.
That's why, again, I like to be a little bit more conservative, and that's why I use 3.25 in my estimate. So by the time everything gets through, we haven't kind of based our decision on 3.5, but maybe something a little less conservative.
Yeah, that's correct.
So what is the board's pleasure? Do we have a motion?
So, to invest the surplus funds from the bond into a money market account and $3 million into 6-month treasuries.
Was it 3 or 3.5? Because
3.5 was the percentage rate.
I think it was 3 million.
It's 3 million.
3 million.
3.5 was the interest rate.
Oh, okay.
And 3 million into treasuries.
Is there a second to that
I'll
motion?
second that.
Steve Borzak has seconded. Is there any further discussion on the motion for the item? Seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion's passed. This next one is to change the account for the capital project from M&T Bank to National Bank of Middlebury. And that was a recommendation that came from Budget and Policy, I believe.
Yes, it was.
And Mark? May I have
Was
it?
that?
Yeah.
I couldn't quite hear your question, Suzanne. I'm
I
sorry.
said, and it was also a recommendation from you, correct?
Yes.
And I have
Is
a,
it? Okay.
I was just gonna ask for a motion and then we can,
Okay.
I'll move to change the capital project checking account from M&T Bank to the National Bank of Middlebury.
is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Judd?
No, I was just trying to second it.
All right. Nick, did you have anything?
Well, I was just going to say that M&T Bank has not given us great service since the takeover of People's. And there was even a $1,000 charge on our account, which shouldn't have been charged.
Had to be reversed.
So they haven't been very efficient with us, and it's probably wise to
So in other words, this is a prudent move, you would say.
change.
It's been moved and seconded to change the capital project checking account from M&T Bank to National Bank of Middlebury. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none.
Suzanne?
Whoops, yes, Mark?
If it would be possible, the question is, the current signers on the M&T account, are you carrying those same 2 people over to the National Bank of Middlebury? My assumption is yes, but as long as you have before the board, thought I'd answer the question.
Do you know who the 2 signers currently are, Mark?
I believe it is Jane and Jay.
Okay. Is the board okay with making a friendly adjustment motion? Nick, it's your motion.
Yes, I'm fine.
Is there any
I'm surprised they're not on the National Bank of Middlebury already.
They may be,
But it's just probably assigned by account.
It is.
it's a different account.
So why would Tim not be on there?
I wonder if we can
Yeah.
add this same account on to
So
the
it's,
resolution. If we change the account as well and
it should be on the resolution.
finish do the resolution as well that was passed. That way it just
Just
happens
do the-
all at once, then we can
Yeah.
add Tim and.
So, would you like me to, I'll withdraw the motion and restate it, and who would you like on the signatories? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, so Mark, who again's on the signatories currently?
Currently, it is Jane Beck and Jay Stetzel. And primarily, we have Jane sign it as the duly elected treasurer of the district, but should for some reason Jay not be available, Jay could sign it for us. So I just felt it was, as long as we were talking about it, it provides clarity. So if someone looks back in the future, they know who the board intended to have as signatures.
Okay, so then.
Okay, so I would withdraw my earlier motion, and I would like to make a new motion that we change the capital project checking account from M&T Bank to the National Bank of Middlebury, with signatories being Jane
Beck.
Beck
and
with a
Jay
B.
Stetzel.
And do we want to add Tim on there too, or?
I don't know why not.
Yes.
Okay,
And
Tim.
Is there a second to the new
Yep.
motion?
I'll second that one
Okay,
too.
so it's been moved and seconded to change the capital project checking account from M&T Bank to National Bank, and to make sure that the signatories on it are Jane Beck, elected treasurer, Jay Stetzel, and Dr. Tim Williams. Is there any further discussion? Seeing no hands raised, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion's passed. All right. Okay, we're almost caught up. We're a minute, about a minute ahead. Informational agenda, there was quite a bit in our report packet. Anybody have any questions about what you received?
Although we have not had a chance to review the minutes and approve them, I'm wondering what it says informational agenda, and the reports are listed as the minutes from those meetings. If there's something that needs to be corrected in those minutes, and it hasn't gone back to the committee
Then they should
yet.
be listed as draft minutes.
Okay. And I think they are listed as draft minutes, so there's a correction in the budget policy lines.
So as long as,
That was from the committee.
Right.
if a committee has met and their minutes are here, but the minutes haven't gone back to the committee, then those would be draft minutes because they haven't gone through the approval process.
Okay.
Does that make sense to everyone?
So the September budget policy one was approved at the October 11th one, so it does not say draft.
So,
October it does say draft.
Right, okay,
But
so,
I'm noticing that the facilities committee one does not say draft, and it should.
And
Steve,
then-
is your question that it says report instead of minutes?
well, yeah, that's the thing, is they say reports instead of minutes, and so us, because we're gonna vote and say that
we don't have, informational is just
okay,
information for us
got it.
to ask questions. We don't vote on anything under information.
Okay.
But yes, they should still come out correctly. They should come out, if they're a draft, they should state draft until they've been approved by the various committees.
Committees, okay.
So there was, like I said, there was a lot of reading. Some really great reports in there, some good numbers. We can all help pull those numbers along. Does anybody have any questions to any of the report writers? Kim?
Tim, I had the pleasure of attending the open house, and I wondered if you could give us a little report regarding numbers. Obviously, there were a lot of parents there of current students, but I didn't see anybody else from the ward there. And I know personally the faculty were very happy to see me. And I think in the future, if you do get the opportunity to come to open houses, they appreciate it.
Yeah, I have to apologize. I had it on my agenda and then the events just got ahead of me. So I was planning on coming.
First one recognizes.
But I think, Kim, you had a question for Tim. So
You want to know numbers? Yeah, the open house at North Campus for, because we had them separately because, just because we're separate. That was really well attended. That was about a month ago, Jay? Thereabouts? That was really well attended. And the open house at the main campus was fairly well attended, not as well as one at North Campus. But there were a fair number of people. I don't have a count. I don't know, Jay, if you have a count of the number.
I don't,
But
yeah.
there were a lot of people milling about. There were people who came who were not directly affiliated with the Parent Technology Center, which was nice. There were community members who just came in to check it out. So that was really good too. But everybody was very engaged with the guests, and the teachers were engaged with each other, which was really nice to see. It was just a positive evening.
Right. I'm wondering,
Tiffany.
Tiffany?
I was just gonna say, I know last year I got a few invitations to events. For me, it would be helpful if we got a calendar invite or even a paper invitation, because if it's not on my calendar, I'm oblivious to it. So I would think if we just invite board members to make sure that they have awareness of it, I think we might get better attendance.
Thank you, Tiffany. That's actually what I was going to say, was if we could, before the school year starts, open houses, the date of what we used to call the completer ceremony, if all of those dates were sent to the board and we could put them on our calendar. My daughter had asked me last June if I wanted to go to Freiburg Fair with her. That's where I was. So obviously I couldn't drive back in time. But if we could have all those dates, I think then that would allow board members to plug them into their calendars. And hopefully, I check my calendar normally.
I had it on my calendar.
Then, it might get more of us there, but I think that would be another way. And Tiffany, I agree with you. The written invitations that came last spring, even though some of them came rather late, they were still helpful. If you happen to have a free evening and you get one, then you could go. But it's nice to feel that somebody took some time and reached out to you and said, we'd love to have you.
Suzanne, I think the other piece is that a lot of us, especially with the new faculty, I didn't know some people. And it gave me an opportunity to go around and talk to them one-on-one. One of the things that Kelly Mills did, which I loved, and I have a sample of it, for the parents when they came in. It's a week-by-week breakdown of everything that she's doing in the curriculum, so that the parent can hopefully reinforce and help with, guiding the students to, if they have questions or want to share some of that information with the parents.
Great. anything else about the board reports?
So this is the first time that I recall seeing the enrollment numbers sort of broken out this clearly. Just curious how it stacks up to like the last 6 semesters or whatever our rolling average is supposed to look like.
Tim, can you take a stab at that?
Yeah, I think in general, we have some lower numbers than we had in the past. In some cases, we have higher numbers than we had in the past. If you look at our pre-tech programs, they're really highly enrolled at this point, which is a really positive sign for the future. And we have some lower numbers in the senior level classes. But we'll have to wait through that for this year and then get through to next year for the numbers to go up. As far as the six semester average, I don't have an answer for you on that yet. Once we get the numbers confirmed from the sending schools, we can see what we're looking like FTE wise, 6 year average, or 6 semester average, to see what those numbers look like. Jay, do you want to add anything to that?
I can add a few more details. I'll try not to bounce around here. So sustainable agriculture is a good example. There's 25 students total, and that's a combination of both year 1 and year 2. Students can come in the morning, no matter which year they're in, they can come in the morning or the afternoon, because Kelly does a 2-year rotating curriculum. So previously she was limited to 20 students in her afternoon program between years 1 and 2, and then she would do the pre-tech program in the morning. This year she could have had up to 20 in each of these, so she's got more room, but we were able to allow 25 students to participate in that program, where we would have had to put 5 on a wait list and potentially tell them they couldn't come this year. So that's good for future years, obviously. Connected to that is natural resource management, which in the past has had low numbers. And we combined that. It's a similar 2-year rotating curriculum. Year 1 and year 2 students can be together in the afternoon. Erin's teaching the pre-tech program that Kelly was teaching, which is the Intro to Agriculture, which has 30 students in it. So natural resource management, those are the best numbers that we've seen in the past couple of years. So that, making adjustments because numbers were low in one area and higher in others has really benefited us in those 2 programs. I think, some of the other things, obviously engineering and architecture, it's a rebuilding. We're rebuilding that program. So we're glad to have 5 students in there as opposed to none. So we have a program. And we're really excited about what Katie's doing and building that program. Let's see, Human Services actually had a number of students, probably almost double that number of students at the beginning of the year, and for a variety of reasons, students dropped. As far as I know, it's no fault of our own, but as Tim Schicken said, no. It's not Ulti's fault or anything. I mean, just things came up, there were scheduling conflicts, students, one student who just decided it really wasn't their career path, and so they dropped. So that's why those numbers are lower. But that's a program that struggled as well. Ulti and I and some other people have been having conversations around really building sorry, I lost my train of thought there. Teacher education portion of Human Services. So we got a grant, the state got a grant to pay for a curriculum called Educators Rising, which Human Services programs are using to hopefully get more teachers into the field. And so the focus as we're working on programs for next year, we're working on course descriptions for next year, program descriptions, that's going to be more of the focus in that as opposed to the foundations program. So we're hoping that we're going to pull in some more students because they'll still be learning about human development and the things that they would learn about in the foundations course, but there'll be more of a focus on that becoming an educator piece. So there's a number of those sorts of things that are happening to hopefully build construction. Tim mentioned, we have 4 students in construction too. The reason for that is that we had more than half of our students last year were seniors in construction 1. And, we want to fill construction 1 as well, and if that's who we have, we're going to fill it. But then you have less students to pull from when they come back. So I think we could have had three more juniors from last year come back who decided to do other things. We have more juniors in the construction technology program this year, so we're hoping that more of them come back, and that second year number will be bigger for construction. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
So, Bill, do you have a question?
No, I'm just
Okay.
playing with my pen.
So, a couple of, I heard from students in the human services that some people would like to see more about elder care in human services because they don't want to work with kids. They're like, we love going to the nursing homes and helping out and working with older individuals. So that's what I've heard from people, is that they would love to see more of a connection there. So I've got two questions. One, why sustainable ag is so low in the morning and so heavy in the afternoon? I think that if we could have, I don't know if we could have, but even it out might have been easier. And then my last question is, and only because it's been in the newspaper, but where do we stand on the ART tech piece that needs to happen, where we need to connect it with a college level course?
So I'll start with human services. So we're not going to lose that elder care portion. I mean, that's still going to be part of the human development piece. But to be honest, actually, the students who we have had here, we've had many more students, at least in my 3 years here, who've been interested in the early childhood, and very few who've been interested in elder care. So that's why, I mean, we've unfortunately just had low numbers in that foundations program, I think partially because of that. They've been choosing the early childhood education. So it's still going to be a portion of it, but just not a focus. And we're happy to have them, setting up with co-ops and those sorts of things in that setting for those students who are definitely interested in that. So we want them to come talk to us, and we'll figure out how to make that work for them. Let's see. I'm probably going to have Tim answer the ART question, and let's see. Sustainable ag. So that is probably just a scheduling with the high schools. It worked better in the morning for more students than it did in the afternoon. We ask all the high schools to try to balance out as best they can, and but ultimately, if a student needs to come in the afternoon to fit in other classes versus not coming at all,
Right,
we're going to have them come in the afternoon. But you're right. I mean, Kelly would much rather have 12 in one and 13 in the other, and
Right.
easier to balance. And getting the chores done in the afternoon is so much easier because you have too many people to to do them than you do in the morning. So.
Yeah. Okay.
Tim, do you want to take the ART question?
Yeah, the ART, one of the things that the Agency of Education told us that all programs need, they need an IRC industry recognized credential, 2 of those, or 2 college courses tied to the course, or a combination thereof, but you got to get to 2. For ART, the best path, and it appears it may be the only path, would be to have 2 college courses attached to ART. And we're working on that now. I've been talking with AOE about fast forward courses that can be used. The students can use fast forward passes, but the courses that are offered at the 2 institutions where they can do the fast forward courses do not have a theater related course that is part of some kind of a degree. So we've been going back and forth a lot on that, but I don't think we're going to get there. So now we have to reach out to other universities and colleges and see what kind of arrangement we can make with them to have our instructor be the adjunct professor for the course that would then be offered via concurrent enrollment or dual enrollment. So that's the path we're going down right now. The instructor has said he's worked something out for public speaking credit, which would be a fast forward course. And then we have to find a course somewhere at another college, another institution where they can earn some acting credits or theater arts 101 credits or something like that for a course that is part of a degree program at that institution. So that's where we are with that at the moment.
Great, thank you. Kim?
Conversation yesterday at the car show in Middlebury with a couple of parents of alumni of the theater program. And their comment, and I basically reiterated, Tim, what you just said, and that we're looking for some affiliation with another higher ed institution. And they mentioned Middlebury. I think, again, you and I talked about it the other day briefly, but theater is right here in the neighborhood, and it may be something that might meet that particular gap in the accreditation piece. But it's something to think about.
Yeah, I've already been talking with the department chair at the theater department at Middlebury. That's gonna take some massaging. Trying to get that to work. Also, as far as ART is concerned, I don't know if it's very well known, but we actually have a graduate of the program who had been nominated for an Emmy, which is a nice thing to have happen. And there are graduates working in the field all over the place, Disney, for example, and we need to use those examples to help illustrate the value to the program. Right now, we have to, as part of the Perkins grant, we've been rewriting that to give them a better picture of what ART is for the workforce in the area, and so that'll be necessary to be able to use Perkins funding for the program. So we're working on that as well. But it all hinges on us being able to arrange 2 college courses for that program.
Thank you. And UVM just did something with all of their performing arts. They put them under one domain. So I don't know what that means as far as their majors, but that has been a recent move as well. So 2 things that have come to my attention. One is if board members have questions about programming, or somebody says something to you in the community, the best bet would be to go to Tim first. You can copy me on it, if you'd like to, but please take it to Tim first, because if you don't, then I have to go to Tim, and I'm kind of like in the middle of it. So, if people in the community say something, or you're questioning something that's going on, please take it to Tim. Like I said, copy me if you want, but send it off to Tim. He'll take care of it.
Yeah, and what I would ask also is that if somebody does approach you in the community about something that's going on that they have a question about, the best course of action is to say, okay, well that's a good question, and if let's say it's related to something happening in one of the programs and they're not happy about it. First question you would say is okay, have you talked to the instructor about this? And then after that, if they had, then it would be to Jay, and then to me, and then so on. But yeah, we shouldn't have the board president be the middle person in those conversations. So whenever possible, let's get it figured out at the lowest, the least common denominator. So if it's a classroom issue, it would be with the instructor. The person would need to talk to the instructor, not the board member, but the person asking the question. And if that hasn't been resolved that way, then it would go to Jay or to me, and so on up the chain. That's how I like to approach those things.
Now, do we have a formal complaint policy? Because what's being described here is a formal complaint policy at the MAUSD board. So we can point people to our policy library, which Tim has carefully reorganized here, and say, here's how you want to deal with complaints. And it basically outlines exactly what Tim just said.
Right. I think it's in there, but I'm not 100% positive. There is a VSBA policy on.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll double check. Steve and then Bill.
And I would add to people who haven't been in this situation before, we are really kind of, for the school district, we're the court of last resort by getting involved at too low of a level, like not deferring and saying, you need to go through the chain of command. We could taint our role as the court of last resort. So it's not that we don't want to answer questions, we kind of can't answer questions because then they could come back later and say, you said, and you really don't want to get involved in this because it really does need to go through the chain of command, which is instructor and whatever's set up like that. But you are exposing not just yourself, but you're exposing the board if you do get involved in that process.
Bill?
Question I have is that related to the ART in a college class. I'm assuming that's got to be something that's done on site?
Yes.
That's correct. The instructor would be the adjunct professor of record for that course. The college, in essence, would be blessing the instructor as an adjunct professor, and the credit would then be issued from that institution.
Okay.
So they wouldn't travel off-site for this. It would be part of their regular program.
Okay. But we need a university or a college to sponsor somebody who's here teaching it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, that's correct.
So Bill, currently the instructor has an obligation to make sure that their curriculum and all those sorts of things are shared with the college or university, and that's how they get, so they go through an approval process and confirmation process to make sure that that course can be taught by them, since it's earning credit for that institution.
Okay.
So
Thank
it
you.
has to meet all the rigors and standards of the college. So any other, and then I'll, the update on the superintendent search, for anybody that's been browsing on SchoolSpring. The search is out there. We currently have 3 people that are interested, I believe 2 resumes. Don't ask me who they are, because I don't know. I did ask Tim if he was applying.
You guys are great and everything, but
He wants to go back to Pennsylvania.
I'd like to retire again.
So that's what I know. And
So what is going to be the timing of it? Is there going to be a...
so hoping, I believe the sites close in middle of November, hoping to do that whole process. If we can manage to do it by Christmas. That might be too ambitious.
We also probably don't want to leave it open too long.
No.
If people have expressed interest, you don't want
Yeah.
to lose the ones
Right.
you have.
Right, so it will close. It's either first or second week. I think it's the first week of November. And then then they'll do their process of reviewing everything and then giving us however many, like we did that last time where we did those initial interviews online, and then bring in candidates, but hoping to have things completed by Christmas. But like I said, who knows, we could get snowstorm after snowstorm and not be able to get people in, and then, or we could do a repeat of what happened last spring. Hopefully not. But you never know. But that's kind of where things are right now. So I thought you would all be pleased to know that people are interested in us. And I know Judy said that she had a lengthy conversation with one of the individuals that had applied. So other than the lengthy conversation, I can't tell you anything else. I don't even know where these people are applying from. And I haven't asked. And I'm trying to stay as much out of that as possible. So, are there any more comments, questions, concerns under the informational agenda?
It sounds like we had a business manager applicant and then that fell through.
Yes, yeah, we offered the position to a candidate, and she declined.
Interesting how you sort of keep running into that, like we get them to the point of the interview and then they decline. the invitation.
I think it's happening more and more, with, not just with us, but with other places.
So you found something better in the interim, but you have no idea, really, or?
I mean, that's the state of the current labor market. There are thousands upon thousands of vacancies, highly qualified people. So that is truly just, I think it's the state of the labor market, and Vermont is a hard state to recruit to if you're recruiting from out of state. And there's been a lot of news articles about people accepting a job in Vermont, not being able to find housing and turning the job down. So we have a lot of challenges with recruiting to Vermont in general.
Yep. Yep. So, if there's nothing else, I will take, so Bill, just to let you know, this policy 4.1, governing style, I will either ask for a volunteer, not you, or I will appoint someone to do it, but it's someone reflecting back on how the meeting went, how we treated each other, how we interacted. So, who would like to take it on? Anyone? If not, oh, I saw that look, Tiffany. Her eyes got really big, like, oh no.
So I can attempt to do it.
Oh, sure.
Am I supposed to give a number?
No,
Okay.
just give
So-
like a narrative of how you think the meeting
That'd be
went.
interesting, kind of a rating from 1 to 10.
I think the meeting went well. I think we treated each other well, respectfully. We are maybe about 15 minutes late on our schedule, but we did start a little bit late, so kind of not a fault of our own, and just trying to get a quorum. So overall, thumbs up.
Steve Rooney would like to know if you would give us a number from 1 to 10.
I give us an 8.
Okay. Start keeping track.
He's gonna keep track. He's got a little tally going. All right, so with that, I would like to take a motion to go into executive session, personnel.
So move.
Moved?
Second, Judd.
Seconded by Judd. Is there any discussion? I don't hear any, so all in favor? Say aye.
All right.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion's passed.